So coming into this chapter, we see that Yuji has failed to kill Sukuna with the Executioner's Sword that was given to him by Higuruma on his deathbed. The sequence plays out a little ambiguously, I guess, but it seems like the Executioner's Sword just wasn't strong enough or dissipated or something because Higuruma died, and therefore Sukuna is able to avoid it or something. I just wish Gege did better paneling with this sequence, to be honest, but I don't think the Executioner's Sword is gone for good because it was built up a lot in the last couple chapters, and even before that in the beginning of the Culling game, so I guess it has to come back at some point. If Higuruma himself does come back, maybe it'll reignite with it Yuji or something maybe, and I'll get more into that. But Sukuna is able to counter at Yuji and throw some slashes at him. And then he notes that his Kamutoke cursed tool was taken by Higuruma, and it's like completely gone now, especially now that he's dead. We saw a couple chapters back when Higuruma activated his deadly sentencing domain expansion. Once Sukuna was found guilty, the confiscation took his cursed tool, the Kamutoke, which was made by Yorozu many chapters back on her deathbed using her construction technique. And unfortunately, we only really got to see him use it for I guess a single chapter against Kashimo, but I guess it's more so just showing how much Sukuna has lost coming into this fight, because he is surely not at 100%. I mean, just going through the Gojo fight alone, he's spent so much cursed energy, seemingly can't even use his domain expansions anymore because of that, and then he had to use his form reacclimation or whatever he did to become his, four-arm form against Kashimo. That was like a one-time thing. So yeah, he's slowly being stripped away here, which I guess will play into his ultimate downfall. Then we come to this sequence where we see Yui, the brother of Mei, and Kirara, who is Hikari's girlfriend, come and take the dead body of Higuruma and then teleport away, because it's confirmed by Sukuna here that Yui does have a teleportation curse technique. I mean, we kind of knew this because, back at the end of season 2, as we all recently saw with that controversial scene, Yui was able to take Mei from Shibuya to Malaysia. So that's how he's been doing it, but Sukuna also points out that Yui and Kirara are taking the wounded and or dead people and teleporting them away. And one of the other people mentioned is Gojo. So that means that after Gojo was killed by Sukuna, Yui and Kirara showed up and took his severed body, seemingly back to Shoko. Shoko is like the main jujutsu doctor, I guess you could say, in this series. She was on Gojo's team back when he was in Jujutsu High along with Geto. And she's known for having, reverse curse technique to a somewhat high degree, I guess. Or more so that she can't only just use it on herself like most of the sorcerers in this series, she can use it on others and heal them that way. However, Sukuna points out that when you do this, when you use reverse curse technique on others besides yourself, it seemingly is halved in its effectiveness. And just putting that aside, Sukuna points out that Shoko's reverse curse technique in general isn't even as strong as his own or Gojo's. And that leaves the question of, is Gojo going to be revived by Shoko here? And I don't really know. This isn't the first time that Gege has given us false hope about a character coming back to life. I mean, this notoriously happened also in season 2 recently with Nobara, who, we haven't really heard or seen or talked about since I think after Akotsu met up with Yuji, which is going to happen at the beginning of season 3, where it was implied that she was pretty much dead. But it is really interesting that it is specifically being pointed out here that Gojo's body was taken by Yui and Kirara and allegedly taken to Shoko. So that is for sure Gege putting that there to give us hope about him possibly coming back. I mean, Gege is painfully aware that Gojo is the most popular character in this series. So it would really sell the volumes and the chapters if he were to come back, Now, how could he come back? Well, there's a few ways, I guess. Just straight up having reverse curse technique applied on him by Shoko, healing his torso to his legs could, in theory, bring him back just that way. I mean, we have seen other people, mainly Yuji, I guess, straight up get killed twice and then come back after being reverse curse techniqued. Like, he was killed by Sukuna ripping out his heart and he was dead for a while. You know, that happened back in early season 1. And then, you know, reverse curse technique happened, and then he was brought back to life. Now, I know that there was some jujitsu trickery going on there with whatever Sukuna was doing, the nuanced stuff. And that definitely had something to do with it. But also, which is going to happen at the beginning of season 3, when Akotsu kills Yuji with a sword to complete his binding vow with the higher ups, he then brought him back to life with reverse curse technique. So now that Gojo has been killed, even though it is a little different, I guess, because I don't think Akotsu killed Yuji with cursed energy, although I don't think it really matters in this case. It only really matters when it comes down to if somebody is going to become a cursed spirit or not, right? The difference between killing them with or without cursed energy. I don't think that really matters with reverse curse technique healing them. So in theory, Gojo could be brought back, and also we've seen Gojo himself freaking die, kind of, you know, by Toji stabbing him in the head and stabbing him multiple times. And Gojo said at that time he just focused completely on healing himself. So it's possible that when Gojo was sliced through the stomach or the abdomen, he did something similar. Because I guess they had to have some kind of contingency in place here for if Gojo were to lose to Sukuna, considering that everybody acted so quickly after Gojo died. And they weren't like grieving or upset, you know? They didn't even talk about it. So there's just so many little things here that Gege is putting there to make us think that there is a possibility, but maybe Gege legitimately likes upsetting his audience. Not really sure with that. But there is another possibility that Shoko is stronger than what Sukuna thinks she is. I mean, maybe he's just downplaying her, because he does have somewhat of a good idea of how powerful he is from being inside of Yuji's body, having his memories, having Megumi's memories, just being a, you know, crazy jujitsu genius. But maybe, like I said, she is stronger than what he is giving her credit for. Or maybe her curse technique, which we don't know. We never even heard even remotely what it could be. She's always just been focused on her reverse curse technique abilities. Maybe her curse technique has something to do with her, I don't know, saving people or something. Or there's another possibility that she does some kind of crazy binding vow that brings Gojo back, possibly, because that's always a thing, right? I mean, I don't know if binding vows can go as far as like Nen contracts and Hunter x Hunter can, but it does seem like if not Gojo comes back, maybe Higuruma can be healed and then he'll come back. And like I said, that will tie back into the Executioner's Sword. But anyway, all this talk about reverse curse technique, turns out our boy Yuji has learned reverse curse technique over the 1 month time skip before the Gojo versus Sukuna fight. Who taught him how to do it? Not really sure. We'll probably never know, to be honest, because it doesn't seem like Gege really cares to explain things that happened before anymore. But given that Yuji allegedly knows how to use blood manipulation now, because allegedly we saw, or didn't see, off panel, Yuji firing off a piercing blood at Sukuna in the previous chapter. How he learned how to do that? Not sure. We're not even really sure what's going on with Yuji's arms, or what his power-up is, or what his abilities are. I mean, it's implied that maybe he ate the cursed wombs, but when he ate them, did he gain the curse technique from them as well? Don't know, but I'll go more into what Yuji could be doing, because we're about to go into Sukuna's long monologue in this chapter, because Sukuna's going over his options here. He's like, okay, Yuji learned how to reinforce his cursed energy, and now he's learned reverse curse technique, so that's kind of interesting, I guess. And then, you know, the main dish being the kid with spirit possession. I think he's talking about Ino here. Main dish referring to, like, that's his best fight that he's gonna have with Ino, unless he's talking about Akotsu, but pretty sure Ino's ability is spirit possession, right? He has like one of those 4 royal beasts or whatever that he can call on to use those techniques. Ino seemingly isn't really that strong from what we saw, so I don't know why Sukuna would be talking about him, unless he knows something that we don't, which he always does. I mean, go figure, he is a main villain in Jujutsu Kaisen, but he's getting irritated and he's zoning out. And he's like, am I disheartened because that sorcerer died? I think he's referring to Higuruma here. And then he goes on to explain pretty much who he is in a nutshell, saying that, like, he doesn't have to be satisfied by others because he essentially does what he wants when he wants to. And all of this is just a way to pass time until he dies. And that others to him are just things to, I guess, entertain him in a way, which I guess directly conflicts with him being satisfied by others, but whatever. But first, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, Fume. Not everything in a bad habit is wrong. So instead of a drastic, uncomfortable change, why not just remove the bad from your habit? Fume is an innovative, award-winning device that does just that. Instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air. And instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses all natural delicious flavors. Your Fume comes with an adjustable airflow dial and is designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers a lot to do, which is helpful for de-stressing and anxiety while breaking your habit. Guys, I'll be straight up. I particularly do not have a bad habit that I would use Fume for. I mainly wanted to partner with Fume for you guys. That's because my demo is 18 to 34. And statistically, a lot of you probably have some bad habits. And you know what I mean. Some of you are really knee deep in those bad habits. And I would really like to help you guys turn those bad habits into good habits. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to use it personally. I mean, now that I have it, why wouldn't I? And now that I've tried it, it's pretty refreshing, like surprisingly refreshing. And as it says here, it pretty much is literally flavored air. My favorite flavors are raspberry lemonade and sparkling grapefruit. They are so good. Also, I actually just got the Fume Solano version. It has this nice darker aesthetic to it, and I absolutely love it. And trust me, I know, stopping is something we all put off because it's hard, but switching to Fume is easy, enjoyable, and even fun. Fume has served over 100,000 customers and has thousands of success stories. And there's no reason that that can't be you. So join Fume in accelerating humanity's breakup from destructive habits by picking up the Journey Pack today. Head to tryfume.com/Zhoniin or scan the QR code and use code Zhoniin to get 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com and use code Zhoniin to save an additional 10% off on your order today. Thanks, guys. And then he remembers back when he said that Jogo essentially lacked conviction to take hold of his desires, and that he didn't have what Sukuna had. And that if other people can't understand where Sukuna's coming from, it's really their problem. And that his main desire is to, aside from living his life the way that he wants, is to go beyond his limits. So Sukuna is basically like a psychopathic, nihilistic shonen MC. Because 1,000 years ago, Sukuna seemingly had already won his story. Like, he got everything he wanted, became the strongest, and then succeeded life into death, and then was reborn once again, I guess to have a challenge because there was none left back in the day. I mean, at this point, I'm even unsure if Gege is going to tell us what happened in the Heian era, and like how Sukuna met Kenjaku and the binding vows that they made. I mean, I hope that he does, but it seems like things are being rushed at this point, right? But then Sukuna says something really interesting, and he's like, why do I get irritated when I see that people want to sacrifice themselves for their ideals? And then he says that there was someone like that from 1,000 years ago, but the one that changed from 1,000 years ago is me. Now, this translation seems a bit iffy. I've seen like 3 different translations of this, and they all kind of say something a little differently. I like to go off of this one because it's more interesting than the others, but there was someone like that from 1,000 years ago. Heian era, of course, the golden age of Jujutsu. Then after that, he says, Brat, that's right, it's you. The opponent that I fought 1,000 years ago was a different person. So this makes me think, is Sukuna talking about his alleged brother that he may or may not have had? And long story short, if he did, then Sukuna ate his brother or merged with him in some way, and that's why he appears to be 2 people in one. Like, he's huge, 4 arms, 4 eyes, mouth in the stomach. Part of him is his brother, but then part of him is not, of course. Because I think that Sukuna wasn't originally the way that he is now. Not even just physically, I mean just mentally as well. Whatever Sukuna is now is something different. Like, his mentality has changed. Like, who he is has fundamentally altered. And I think it's because he is halfway into a cursed spirit, which has like altered his mentality and perception of things. Like, it's made him more hedonistic and nihilistic than what he originally was. Like, maybe he was initially just a guy who wanted to be the strongest, the classic MC. Aside from wanting to be the Pirate King or the Hokage, he wanted to go past his limits, kind of like Goku in a way. But then he just lost much of, or whatever morality that he had when he seemingly transferred over into what he is now. It's possible that Sukuna intentionally killed killed himself in a way so that he would be able to merge with his brother and become like this new cursed spirit merger thing. I know maybe that could parallel to what Kenjaku's trying to do, but before he fully became a cursed spirit, maybe he stopped the process so that he would become what he is now, like the perfect vessel for Jujutsu possibly. And since he has done that, he's now this moralless, hedonistic, Michael Jordan-esque character of the Jujutsu world. And I think that could have always represented what the parallel between Yuji and Sukuna is. Because, Sukuna living inside of Yuji for most of the series, Yuji being the opposite of Sukuna, but Yuji having some kind of connection to him, seemingly because Kenjaku made Yuji for some reason, right? We found out that Kenjaku inhabited the sorcerer Kaori to give birth to Yuji. And Sukuna also makes remarks about Yuji in relation to Kenjaku, which are super ambiguous, of course. And we still don't know much about anything, to be honest, but there is a big web of connections here, especially when Sukuna says in this wall of text where he's like, however, now it's different, our souls coexist together in the same body. Now that's obviously in the past tense, but it could be in even past tense and in the present tense as well. Because this all ends with Sukuna saying that Yuji is far weaker than Sukuna. We know that. However, his will and strength of will is on the same level as Sukuna, and that makes him a real rival to him. Because no matter how many times he breaks Yuji's soul, as he says, he springs back to life. He keeps breaking them down, he keeps coming back. And that could be a little double entendre here from Gege as well. Like breaking his soul, he comes back. Yuji seemingly has an ability to manipulate his soul or souls in general, because we saw in that brief glimpse of the 1 month time skip that he can swap bodies with Kusakabe. And the only way you can really do that so far, as we've seen, was through putting your soul into them and then taking their soul out at the same time, right? And maybe that's how Yuji is able to use blood manipulation through, I don't know, altering his soul or something. And maybe it's why he was the perfect vessel for Sukuna and why Kenjaku made him the way that he did. And maybe this is Yuji's ability. And it could go more into the many levels and layers of what he said to Mahito about how I am you. It's more so like, it could be that, they're more alike than what he thought. Mahito is the fear of humans, where Yuji could be the fear of curses. But they both, at a core level, manipulate the soul. But anyway, this all ends with Sukuna just saying that it's not a change of events, and I'll make it clear to you once and for all. I've decided that I will mince up all of your ideals. So Sukuna's just like, you know what, let me just stop overthinking it and just kill everyone. Like, yeah, your will and ideal are pretty strong, but I'll just overcome you anyway. And then this glowing cross appears above his head, and the Kogane from the Culling game appears, and it says a player has added a new rule to the Culling game. Rule 15, the right to invoke the merger between mankind and Tengen will sit with Fushiguro Megumi. And Sukuna is technically in Megumi's body right now, even though he doesn't look like him. The Culling game identifies Sukuna as Megumi. So Kenjaku's big ultimate plan of merging the population of Japan with Tengen, using the Culling game as like a conduit to be able to do that with its barriers and everything, to create like this massive cursed spirit that is beyond powerful. It could even give birth to a new form of cursed energy. That, the nuclear codes for that, essentially, have been passed on to Sukuna. And I guess this is what Kenjaku was saying as he was being killed by Okotu a couple chapters back. He said, my will would be passed on. This is it. Now, who made the rule chain? Did Sukuna make it in his head? Like, can you do that? I don't think we've seen anybody do that before, right? I think you have to like verbally say it out loud. Now, was it Kenjaku? Is Kenjaku still alive? Probably not, because Okotu is going to show up at the end of this chapter, and we don't see Kenjaku with him. Unless Kenjaku is still alive as a head, and I don't know, Yui teleported and took him somewhere. Not really sure. Unless it was somebody else. Was it Urarame who is fighting Hikari at the moment? Or is there like a sleeper agent out there? Is Miwa the sleeper agent for Kenjaku this whole time? I don't know. So many unanswered questions here, so much off-panel stuff going on. But this glowing cross thing eventually becomes what looks like a cursed womb, right? like a small cursed womb, and it kind of resembles Tengen, which I guess it's supposed to represent here, since if Tengen is dead, then it wouldn't be able to merge with Japan and create the big curse thing. So is he eating like a modified version of Tengen as a cursed womb? Because even, you know, Sukuna acknowledges that this is Kenjaku's insurance. But anyway, then Sukuna's like, you know, I'm going to kill you all, everyone here, and then I'm going to kill all the players in the Culling game, which, by the way, Kenjaku was supposed to do that and he didn't. There are still quite a few players left in the Culling game that aren't here, and I wonder what they're doing. Like, are they just chilling? Like, everybody should just be ganging up on Sukuna now. But then he says that let's finish off with the merger and Tengen and the riffraff. And as soon as that's done, I'll go play with that Tengen, meaning the merger. And we actually talked about this, me, Quirkless Shinobi, Fake Weeb, and No Operator, in a collab that I released, I think last Saturday, about this very situation playing out. If the merger does go through and the big thing, cursed energy monsters, it comes forth, Sukuna would fight it, because I think that was what Sukuna always wanted. Sukuna just wants to be tested to go past his limits. That's why he was egging on Higuruma and everybody else that he was fighting. He wants them to get as strong as they possibly can, because then they will push him further. Because like I was saying, Sukuna is like a hedonistic, nihilistic version of Goku, essentially. Or a Saiyan. And I really hope we do get to see it. I mean, I don't want everybody in Japan to die, but this is Gege's story, and if he wants to entertain us by doing that, so be it. But anyway, Kotsu shows up, and he's like, sorry, I'm late. And he immediately attacks Sukuna, and they clash, but nothing really comes of it. Now, this is a Kotsu, like I said, coming off of beheading Kenjaku a couple chapters back. And he doesn't have Kenjaku with him, and we don't know anything that happened after that. We just know that Akotsu is here now. And it ends with Sukuna saying, like, you know, get your act together and fight against me, because if you don't kill me, I'm gonna kill everyone here. And then Rika comes out of nowhere and then tries to crush Sukuna, but he's like, you know, holding her up. And he's like, there she is, the queen. And then the narration says, like, the queen of curses versus the king of curses. Who will take the throne is decided now. So this is really interesting, and it's kind of a dream match, because this is something that we wanted way back in the day. I remember talking about this like almost 3 years ago. Like, what would happen if Rika fought Sukuna? And to be honest, Gege already kind of told us that, because in the Jujutsu Kaisen data book, I forget what the actual name of it, but thankfully I think an English version of it actually is coming out this year. But in the Q&A section, somebody asked Gege, like, who's stronger, Awakened Rika or Full Power Sukuna? And Gege straight up just said Sukuna. So if you had any kind of questions about who's stronger here, it's definitely Sukuna, because this isn't even Awakened Rika. This is, I guess, like a Shikigami that was left behind by Rika that altered Akotsu's curse technique. Like, Akotsu's curse technique seemingly is this Rika Shikigami that holds his boundless cursed energy and his stocked abilities that he's able to replicate, right? But she still is technically the queen of curses, I guess, at this point. Or the queen of Shikigamis. I don't know. A better fight would be Rika versus Maharaga. That would be really interesting. But can Akotsu seemingly really do anything against Sukuna here? Yeah, like I was saying, Sukuna isn't at full power. He is kind of weathered coming into this fight. And I'm pretty sure he can't use his domain expansion, which puts him at a disadvantage against Akotsu, who can. And I think we are going to finally see Akotsu's domain expansion in this fight, because it was teased when he's having that triple threat match against Uro and Ryu. All three of them were going to use their domain expansions at once, but then the cursed spirit Kuro Urushi came in from the outside and broke it, because it was unstable from 3 domains merging together. So yeah, another Gege, you know, teasing us, but pretty sure we're going to get to see it here, and I cannot wait. The only thing that I'm worried about is that Akotsu is going to die, because it seems like if you fight Sukuna, you're going to get killed, right? That's like the theme of the series so far. And no one is safe. So I just really hope that Akotsu doesn't get killed by Sukuna here. I just want to see a good fight. And man, ideally, I would love for everyone to just break up. Just like go your separate ways and then just chill for a little bit. Give us like a breather for like 3 or 4 chapters, or maybe even 5 chapters, where we can just talk, flesh things out. You know, recover, and then, I don't know, Sukuna gets the last finger and comes back, but it doesn't seem like Gege wants that. But I digress. This video has gone long enough. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below, and if you liked it, please give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.